So, my fiancée Lily, 33 years old, and I, 34 years old, have been in a relationship for a couple of years. Lily enjoys drinking and does it every weekend. Recently, we attended my cousin's wedding. I'm not much of a drinker myself, but Lily convinced me to have a few drinks at the reception instead of my usual joint. I ended up getting more intoxicated than ever before, and to my surprise, I caught Lily and my other cousin Bob, 31 years old, doing MJ together. Bob and I aren't close at all. He thinks of me as a strange person who gets high all the time, while I see him as a conceited and spoiled bully. It was incredibly hurtful to see them together like that, and it felt like a betrayal when Lily dismissed it as just having a good time. Despite our argument, we ended up sleeping together. The next morning, I woke up to find her gone. I felt my heart sink, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. At the reception, I overheard some of Bob's friends joking about how Bob was sleeping with his cousin's fiancée. I confronted them, demanded to know which room they were in, and insisted that one of them come with me. We could hear sounds of closeness before we even reached the room. I instructed Bob's friend to knock and get Bob out without explaining why. So, after yelling and banging on the door, Bob finally opened it and saw me. He stepped back, and I followed him into the room. There was Lily, my fiancée, in bed looking shocked and asking, "What's going on?" Bob didn't say anything. I could only stand there as Lily started freaking out, saying, "It's not what it looks like." But it was exactly what it looked like. Without uttering a word, I walked out. Lily has been relentlessly trying to get in touch with me. She's been calling, texting, and even showing up at my apartment doing everything she can to explain and justify what happened. But honestly, I've been too numb and hurt to listen to her. As for Bob, he's been strangely silent towards me. However, I've learned that he's been bragging about the situation to our other cousins. I only found out when an uncle scolded him for his behavior. I can't even express how disgusted I am, and as for the reaction from my other cousins, let's just say it hasn't been supportive at all. Many people seem satisfied with mocking me, and it adds to the feeling of betrayal. I've made up my mind that I don't need that kind of negativity in my life at the moment. As for Lily, we still haven't had a conversation. I'm not sure if I'm ready to hear her side of the story yet, but I know that I'll eventually need closure in order to move forward. Right now, my main focus is on myself. I'm trying to find a sense of normalcy again, and taking things one day at a time, I'm getting back into the things I used to enjoy, trying to find happiness in the small moments once more. I understand that the path to healing won't be straightforward, and I anticipate that there will be ups and downs along the way, but I'm taking those initial steps, and that's what really counts. Today, my cousin Maria gave me a call and offered a sincere apology. It was surprising because it was the first time she showed genuine remorse. She also shared some new information with me about another lie Bob has been spreading. Apparently, he's been telling people that Lily and I had an open relationship, and her being close with other guys was part of our kinky preferences. According to him, my only issue was that he got involved. I can't say I'm shocked by Bob's behavior, but it's still disheartening to hear. However, it serves as a clear reminder of why I've made the choice to distance myself from that part of the family. Since my last post, I've made arrangements to go to therapy regularly. It's my lifeline, and I'm hopeful it will help me navigate through this mess I'm in. I'm still not talking to my other cousins. However, I did have a conversation with Clara, Lily's sister. She came over to collect her belongings, and what she revealed shocked and disgusted me. It turns out that Lily has a history of cheating, often with guys who are involved in pills, to settle her debts. Learning this made me feel so sick that I actually threw up. Many of you were right when you said that the cheating and the MJUs weren't the first time this has happened. How did I miss all the signs? Right away, I called my doctor to get tested for STDs. Waiting for the results has been incredibly stressful, and these days have felt like some of the most anxious moments of my life. A few days after that, Clara called me and stunned me with another piece of news. My ex-fiancée was pregnant, but not with my child, with Bob's. Yet, she was planning to come to me, pin the child on me, and expect me to raise it as my own. It took a week, but eventually Lily showed up on my porch. She looked worn down, her eyes ringed with dark circles, her skin pale. The sight of her carrying another man's child, oh God, it was awful. There was a time when I would have been overjoyed at the prospect of us having a child together. Now the very thought repulsed me. She began to speak, her voice trembling. I need to talk to you. It's about the baby. I just said to her, Get out of my house, Lily. I will not raise Bob's child. She looked at me in disbelief, her mouth opening and closing without making a sound. How did you... I didn't allow her to finish. Just go, Lily. I watched as she quickly left my porch, a distressed figure disappearing into the darkness. The weeks that followed were challenging. I heard from family rumors that Lily had tried to approach Bob. However, he had no interest whatsoever. Bob had never been the type to settle down and start a family. Their affair meant nothing more to him than a casual fling, a momentary pleasure. He made it clear that he wanted no involvement with Lily or the baby. It brought me a bitter sense of satisfaction. Lily had cheated on me, causing me immense pain, and now she was getting a taste of the suffering she had inflicted on me. So here I am now, living a life I hadn't anticipated but have come to accept. It's not perfect, but it's mine. I'm finding joy in little things, discovering new facets of myself, and creating a life that's about me. It's a tough journey, with its own share of setbacks and disappointments, but it's a journey I'm committed to. Lily is a chapter of my life that is closed. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the drama, it's all in the past. I have emerged stronger and wiser from the experience, and for that, I'm grateful. It was a hard-learned lesson, but it was a lesson nonetheless. As for the future, who knows? I'm keeping my heart open, my spirit hopeful, but one thing's for sure, I won't let anyone else dictate. Second story. Around 4 days ago, my wife revealed that she had been engaged in an affair with her therapist for the past 7 months. There's actually more to the background story that I wanted to share, but if there's interest, I could post the full details on a blog or something similar. About 3 months ago, she distanced herself from me and claimed that I no longer deserved closeness, stating that I had to earn it back. This led to a complete lack of closeness in our relationship, leaving our bedroom life completely dormant. As time went on, I tried to communicate with her and address the issues we were facing. I was deprived of emotional and physical connection, support around the house, and basically any effort she used to put into our relationship or household. It felt like a betrayal, and I was convinced that there was more to the situation. However, every time I confronted her, she would dismiss my concerns, evade my questions, and alter the facts. I consistently asked her to be open and honest with me so that we could work through our issues together. However, it seemed like I was overwhelming her. She never seemed to have time for me and always prioritized other things over our relationship. Her resentment towards me grew, and she became openly hostile. Then she made plans to attend a women's empowerment event that was exclusively for females. Deep down, I already knew what was really going on. She had come up with a cover story that she knew I wouldn't argue with. I couldn't sleep, so I ended up snooping through her accounts again. I checked the phone records, searched her browsing history, and even used a background search service to find out who certain phone numbers belonged to. I noticed a suspicious number and decided to give it a call. As expected, the name on the voicemail belonged to none other than her therapist. I did a background search and found out that he lived in the same town where she booked the hotel. Then, on the second night of her trip, I checked her search history and made a timeline of our conversations compared to her really disturbing search results and other things I discovered. All my fears were confirmed, and it was even worse than I had imagined. She was looking up information on what happens to marriages when your therapist is involved, how to gather evidence for a divorce, and even how to hide assets during a divorce. She was also stalking him and his family, running background checks on them, researching how to deceive someone online, and even wondering if a therapist could lose their license for being too close to a client. The list of things she was researching just kept going on and on. She was Googling this guy almost every day. The proof was clear. She's completely obsessed with him and was stalking him. Just one day before her trip, 5 days ago, she searched for how to not fart during closeness. Everything started to make sense, and I knew exactly what was happening. On Sunday morning, I sent her a text message where I laid out everything I knew about what was going on. I directly mentioned the person she was involved with and told her that if she wanted to salvage our relationship, she had to confess. Surprisingly, she came back on Sunday, a day earlier than expected. She insisted on knowing the source of the information, but I refused to disclose it and stood my ground. I didn't want to give her the chance to confuse, manipulate, deny, or rationalize any of the evidence. Eventually, she confessed everything. She provided detailed descriptions of their closeness. She told me that she wants to continue the affair to see where things go, but also wants to maintain our marriage because she loves me. I feel disgusted. I'm horrified. However, for some reason, I can't help but consider the idea of having an open relationship. Maybe it could be exciting. Please, someone snap me out of this foolish way of thinking. After spending several intense hours listening to her and hearing all the details, the more I think about it, the more absurd and insane it all sounds. It turns out her therapist is the leader of a group of men who have these secretive male empowerment sessions in the woods. They're not allowed to talk about what happens there. Instead of my wife attending a female version of this, she goes to the graduation ceremony of the male session. During this ceremony, each guy goes on stage and shares his emotional story, and then their family members come up to give testimonials about how their lives have improved since joining this group, which is starting to sound like a cult, by the way. There's even a little girl who goes on stage and says, "My daddy is different now. I like him better." So here's what went down. My wife, without knowing it, happens to sit next to the big shot leader of the group. This leader guy leans over to the person in front of them and says, "If only there was a female version of this group." And guess what? My wife seizes the opportunity and goes, "Oh, there is actually. In fact, I skipped the session this week to support my affair partner here today." The leader guy is like, "Oh, really? Would you mind speaking about it and sharing some info with everyone?" And just like that, they put her on stage to talk about this supposed women's empowerment session that she has never even attended before. I might just be overly suspicious, but now I have this gut feeling that her therapist is recruiting vulnerable women for this organization and manipulating them for his own physical advantage. I don't have solid proof of this, though. Honestly, I am completely lost. On one hand, I'm deeply disturbed and upset by my wife's actions. On the other hand, I believe she was taken advantage of, manipulated, and coached by her therapist, and I could report him to the board and have his license revoked. But here's the thing. My wife doesn't want me to do that. She says it would make her miserable to know that she was the reason his life fell apart. Instead, she wants us to have an open marriage and talks about engaging in three-way and exploring exciting and interesting forms of closeness. And well, she was able to seduce me when she returned, and things were pretty good in that department. Man, I had one of those nights where sleep was a long-lost friend. Come dawn, I was completely drained, but I knew what had to be done. I didn't waste any time. I started shoving all of my wife's stuff into trash bags. Every little thing that she left in our house, every reminder of her, was bagged up. I chucked those bags right onto the curb, and let me tell you, I felt a strange sense of freedom. It was like I was taking back control of my space, my life. When my wife saw all her stuff on the street, she lost it. She started screaming at the top of her lungs, making a scene for the whole neighborhood, but I didn't care. As soon as she stepped foot onto the street, I just closed the door without even a backward glance. She knocked on the door for a solid 30 minutes, but I didn't open it. After a while, she just left. As soon as I saw her leave, I changed the locks real quick so she wouldn't be able to get back into the house. My space was mine again, and I intended to keep it that way. At the same time, I started the process of exposing her doctor's shady behavior. Knew for a fact she'd be furious, but it was a necessary move. I compiled every shred of evidence of their concealed liaison and lodged a formal complaint against him with the licensing board. This chap wasn't just crossing professional boundaries, he was blatantly breaking the law. Just a few days later, the dude my wife cheated with got his license yanked. Talk about karma coming back to bite him. His career took a major hit and was pretty much trashed. He was fuming mad, so much so that he went ahead and threatened my wife, swearing to turn her life upside down and ruin her good name. In the middle of all this chaos, my wife was freaking out. She was so afraid of the mess she made, and of the therapist too. With tears in her eyes, she turned to me for help. She reminded me that I made a promise once, a promise to protect my family, but I couldn't help but laugh in her face. I made it clear that I had no intention of rescuing her from this mess she brewed. I even told her she wasn't my family anymore after what she did. She was left all on her own, struggling to clean up the mess she made. I won't lie. Seeing her struggle gave me a weird sense of satisfaction. It felt like payback, watching her deal with the same crap she put me through. The next weeks were crazy, with her incessantly ringing me, pleading for me to return, trying to pretend as if all was fine and dandy. But her voice, which used to calm me down, now just got on my nerves. I was done with her lies and her manipulations. There's something incredibly freeing about letting go, getting your life back from toxic people. In all the chaos, I found peace, a newfound respect for myself. No more nights of tossing and turning. The nightmares and perpetual doubt subsided, replaced by a serene sense of satisfaction. She prioritized her desires over our bond, over my sentiments. Now she was getting a taste of her own medicine. Didn't feel a twinge of remorse or guilt. I had extended her an opportunity to come clean, to mend what was broken, but she decided to lie and double-cross me. Now she was on her own, battling the tempest she had triggered, and for the first time, I wasn't there to shield her. She had her own mess to mop up.